Money Magicians, how are you? So welcome to another episode of the Money Magic Podcast. Today I have an exciting guest with me, Shanika. We're in Mexico and we met very randomly at a store called Chedraui. And she and I are going to be talking about all things related to what she does, which is she is a womb healer. She does a lot of stuff. She's a doula. And she has an incredible story where she did 21 days in the wild, right? If you've just joined, my name is Mangile Makwakwa. I help women of color heal ancestral money trauma so they can fall in love with their bank accounts, increase income, and live their best lives. Wow, that was tripping me up a lot. But welcome, Shanika.
Thank you.
Okay, so yeah, we're gonna have to keep facing the camera once in a while, but please tell me and our audience, who are you? What do you do? How do you define yourself as a soul?
Well, I am Shanika Malcolm. I'm a mother, I'm a sister, I'm a friend to many people. I'm a passionate person. I have many interests, but it all surrounds with living in an empowered life, an authentic life, a real life, one that you can be, or I can be happy with.
Yes.
And that goes for, my own relationship with myself, my relationship with my children, the people that I interface and work with, and just the whole planet. I want to inspire people to live authentically, and that begins with myself.
Oh, I love that. I love that. So, Shanika, I've told everyone about you on Instagram, on Facebook, everywhere. And I think the first thing before we even get into the womb stuff and anything else is, I think everyone I've told about your story is much more fascinated about the fact that you did 21 days on a TV show, Naked in the Wild or Naked and Afraid, right?
Yeah.
And you spent 21 days in a jungle in Mexico.
In Mexico, yeah.
Tell us about that.
So yes, I know you're asking. You're wondering. I was butt naked. No underwear, no bra, nothing. Like, ass naked.
Guys, I saw the video and I just been like, wow, what's happening? Like, that's so surreal. That's literally the first question I asked her. I was like, you were naked in front of cameras?
Yeah, and complete strangers, videoing strangers all day long. And, I can tell you how I got into that. So
yeah, tell us, how did you get into that? And how were you not shy? Because I saw you on the video and you're just like, you were like to the guy, turn around, let me check you out, the guy that they partnered you up with. I was like, what? Seriously?
Well, I was born in Jamaica, but I grew up in Philadelphia, and I've also always had a love for nature. So no matter where I was in any city, I would always find, going to the wild, go hiking, find a river, get naked and jump in. So that's a ritual of mine, to be in nature, and it's just a feeling that you don't get in being in four walls. You feel alive, you feel connected to your soul and nature, which is just a reflection of your pure essence. So years ago, that's how I raised my children. We live in the city, we're going out in nature all the time.
And you also taught them to just feel free.
To be free,
in nature.
Yeah.
Guys, Shanika's children are incredible. Actually, her daughter is in the next room, but I mean, gorgeous, gorgeous children. This is not even me just hyping it up. Her babies are gorgeous, smart. So what I love about them is they just so comfortable around adults and just talking, saying their piece. So beautiful.
And that's how I raised them to be.
Yeah.
Because growing up with myself, I know, and now that I'm older and I can reflect back and I can see different gaps that I didn't get or different, nourishment that I didn't get, I want to be able to give it to them. So being a mother of 3 Black girls, I want them to be empowered and to take up space and to use their voice and not just sit and take any kind of abuse from anybody, including family. So I've always raised them from a young age to speak up.
Yeah, and guys, so her eldest daughter is 13 and they are now living in Mexico. They've lived in the US, they've lived in Mexico. I was talking to her middle daughter and she's like, oh, I prefer Mexico. Like, these kids are getting an education that you don't get anywhere else. They're learning how to, they're able to talk about the difference between their gymnastics teachers in the US and in Mexico, how their gymnastics teacher speaks only Spanish here in Mexico, which is normal, by the way. Right, we are in Mexico, so almost everyone around us speaks Spanish. So it's just really, really beautiful to see.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
And I want to go back to the wilderness.
Yes, please.
So in 2017, I started to attend earth skills gatherings and primitive skills gatherings. And, I was in Philadelphia at the time and I drove with my girls 12 hours to North Carolina to attend these gatherings. And I was primarily the only woman of color or the only few. I can count on my hand how many people of color I've seen, and a lot of times I was the only one.
Of course.
Yeah.
I believe you.
Yeah. And in the things that I'm into, permaculture, natural birthing before it was even popular, and all the things that I was into, going and seeking that information, I was always the only person of color.
Yeah.
So in the natural, the primitive skills, outdoorsy world, there's not a lot of representation for people of color, especially women of color. So when I got into that space and learning all these things that I love, I knew that I wanted to create a window or a path for other people of color to feel confident and safe to actually reconnect with their wild selves.
Wow. Did it ever feel awkward for you? Because I think maybe people are here and they're interested, especially just going nude in nature, but you're the only person of color. Did it ever feel like all eyes are on me, or it feels awkward, or I'm othered in this group?
Well, I would say being the only person of color in spaces, it took a lot of self-awareness and work to even feel confident to go into those spaces and take up space. So I worked through those issues, and when I show up, I know who I am as a Black woman, the mother of creation, that they're all my children. So why should I go into these spaces and shrink? So when you know your power and who you are, you can show up as that, and people will feel it. So that's my advice. Go into space, go wherever you feel you need to go, and be yourself.
Wow. Love this advice. Love this advice. I think that it's really, really powerful because I know what it's like to often be in spaces where I'm the only person of color, especially through my travels. I found myself in those spaces. It's gotten better because I've started to consciously travel to places with people of color, so brown people. And I found that to be very, very friendly often. So even if I'm Black, I'll sometimes be just the only Black person there, but everyone else is brown. And there's a dynamic that happens there that is just that is different when it's white people in the space, because it's sometimes I'll even forget that I'm the only Black person there, because it's just a different dynamic. So I understand, it would definitely be a little uncomfortable for many people of color, and I say Black and brown people, to go into such spaces, and then you add the fact that people are just going, it's naturalists, right? People are completely nude and they're chilled. It adds another layer to the space versus we're fully clothed and we're there. So I agree with you, you need to know who you are, and you need to be strong in that knowledge, you know?
Yeah.
So that is really, really interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so you start doing these you start going to these survival skills events. You start discovering that you love nature, that you love being out in nature. And then, how do you end up on this show? Like, I mean, okay, let's get real. Going from, I love doing this to a group of people, to, I'm gonna be naked in front of the world.
The world, yeah. So I never imagined that I'd be on this show and be naked to the world. But in doing all my things and the travels, I've always posted to inspire other people to get out into nature. So that's how I was discovered. You know, the TV show, they have scouts and, you know, people that find talent. So they found me online and reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to audition. So I auditioned and they loved my presence and they were like, yeah, you made it. So that's what happened.
But I mean, what did you think when you were called to audition?
Well, I was like,
were you not scared? I mean, it's a jump. So on this show, we talk about vows of invisibility on the podcast. A vow of invisibility is exactly what it is, a vow to keep yourself invisible and small. And you were like, here, I'm not just visible, here. You guys can see everything and there's nothing secret.
Yeah.
How did that feel? Were you scared?
I wasn't scared, you know. Prior to going on, for years I've been doing the work for working on myself and healing. And as you see, I'm not a size 2. So I've had to develop confidence within myself, you know, as being a bigger Black woman and working with my mindset before even going out there and being on camera and being nude in front of total strangers, 10, 15 people that I don't know.
But I mean, you're gorgeous.
Thank you.
Right? You're stunning. So, can you just, because when you said that, I felt it because I feel like there's so many Black women that are probably holding themselves back. Forget even Black women for this. Just women in general, right? I think on a global scale, women are constantly asked to basically make themselves smaller, make themselves thinner, so let alone just feeling comfortable. Because we could all see you were very comfortable on camera. It wasn't, you weren't shy, you weren't, you know, you were just authentic. I think that there's also the flip side of maybe you're not shy, but you go too extra, right? And you didn't do any of that. You were just you. So how do you get to that level of confidence within yourself, which I think we all desire?
Yes, we do. Well, for me, I realized that it comes down to self-love and acceptance. And being able to tune, well, first, going back to your core beliefs about yourself and the world and what it means to be a woman and how you show up.
Yeah.
A lot of our core beliefs come from childhood, from our own mother, our own family, and the men in the family that relate to women in a certain way and say a woman has to be this or that or that.
Yeah.
So really looking at your core beliefs, how you feel about yourself, and where it came from. Because a lot of the beliefs that we have about ourselves and how we should show up in the world, they're not our own. It comes from a very traumatic and a wounded and unnatural society. That's what it comes down to. So you have to have the self-awareness and be able to look at hard truths.
Yes.
And sometimes hard untruths.
Hard untruths.
I
feel that.
Yeah.
I feel that. So when you looked at those hard untruths, what are some of the things that you then did to unpack that and to just feel confident in that? By the way, I really feel like there's a lot of women listening to this. So guys, one of the things I'm just going to plug, if you don't mind, for you. One of the things Shanika does is she works with women around the womb, and as you well know, womb work involves this kind of work. Feeling comfortable in your body, feeling confident, being seen as you in your body. So powerful, right?
Yeah.
But do you mind sharing some, like maybe an exercise or two that you did to help you heal some of these beliefs?
Well, for one thing that I love doing is being nude at home. I sleep nude, and I do that so my girls can feel comfortable with the woman body, the female body.
Wow, so you walk around nude with your kids.
Yeah. So when they see me confident in my own body, no matter what shape I'm in or what I look like, and they see me, they're like, okay, that's normal.
Yeah.
You know, so one thing is being
Because how
comfortable.
many women have taught their children that, like, ooh, get on a scale, measure your body, like, weigh yourself, and that's what you're teaching your children, like that, and ooh, look at how my body looks like, look at how I'm bulging here, look at this.
So when we put value, when we learn this from society, we put value on ourselves by how productive we are, what we look like, and what other people think of us.
Yeah.
But forget about all of that. How do you feel in your body, and what do you think of yourself? That's what it comes down to. Because that inner environment will then reflect around you and how you interact with people.
Yeah.
So I would say, start looking at your core beliefs about what do you think about your body and women's bodies in general. What do you think is attractive and what do you think is not attractive, and how do you fit into that? And then start unpacking that. Start like saying, okay, where did this come from? It's not real, it's false.
Yes.
That comes from, or women need to have straight, kept hair. We have a lot of Eurocentric standards in beauty, in life.
The interesting thing about that as well, Shanika, is that we have Eurocentric standards, and those Eurocentric standards also oppress European women. Like the standards are so narrow, they don't even define European women.
And then when you really look at it, it's funny, there's this European standard, but really in the back end of it, a lot of people try to look like us.
Exactly.
When you think about Botox, the breasts, the butt surgery, so there's this really juxtaposition where they tell you don't look like your natural self. Don't emulate that. Don't love that. But then other people pay thousands of dollars to have full sexy lips, to go to spray tanning or whatever to get nice hue and melanated skin. So when you realize that you are the standard as a black woman, then you start to shift. So I would say really looking at like your own history that is empowering, that is outside of like the colonial story. Looking at black women who are empowered, who are beautiful, and who are living empowered lives, and let that be your inspiration. And even still, let it be your inspiration, but have your own standards. Because someone else might value having a big car and a luxurious house, but that might not be what makes you happy. So at the end of the day, you have to get in touch with you and what brings you happiness and joy outside of anybody else's standards, and what is normal in society, and not being afraid to go after that and live it.
Wow.
And that applies to every area, from birth, to relationships, all of it, to school. Because we do so many things to please other people. Even in the birthing world, a lot of us are afraid to have a natural birth because we're afraid of what our mother might think, or even what our partner,
the doctors might say.
What they might say.
So I absolutely get that, and we're gonna get to the birthing story because I'm obsessed with womb stuff. But I just want to wrap up this part. So then you auditioned, you got into the show.
Yeah.
And then you got to the Chiapas jungle, which is what we see of you in the show. Now, the interesting thing about this is they start off the show, guys, episode 1, telling you that no one has ever survived 21 days in the history of the show in Chiapas, in Mexico, in the jungle.
Yeah.
I was like, wow. But obviously, I just met Shanika and I didn't even know this show existed, so I knew she had survived it. But just walk us through, like, what was that experience like? I mean, were you not terrified?
I wasn't terrified, but it was like, I couldn't believe I was there. So, you know, I'm from Kingston, Jamaica, the heart of the ghetto. And for me to like be flew out to Mexico and then be in front of these cameras knowing that this will be worldwide to millions of viewers, it really struck something in my heart, because it really made me realize that no matter what you are or who you are, where you come from, you can still do amazing things no matter what limitations that you perceive on your life. And that's what my life has taught me. Yeah. You can do anything, you just have to believe in yourself. So being on those cameras and being in front of these people, it just made me like come alive even more, because I knew what my position was as a woman of color and the possibility of being the first person to survive in that environment, and then also being the first woman of color in the history of the show to survive the 21 days. So that in my mind, I thought about the inspiration that it would bring to other women, especially women and girls of color, and that kept me going and focused no matter how harsh the conditions were to finish my 21 days.
Whew. Yeah, hey? I mean, it definitely is different, I think, for when we're dealing with women of color. There's often that like, you know, it's not just me that I'm doing this for. There's so much more at stake, so the mission is bigger. I think that we can all relate to that. But what are some of the things, I mean, so guys, the thing that I want us to get to, like, I want you to tell them, what are you given to survive in the wild? You're dropped in the wild for 21 days. What do you have to survive? You've got no food, no water, you're naked, you have no clothing, you have no shelter.
So they drop us in and we had a machete, a fire starter, and a mosquito net.
That was it.
So that was it, and no clothes. Then we, walk in the environment, find where we want to set up camp, and then we have to see what's in the natural environment and build a shelter, find food, find water, and basically live. That's it.
That's it.
Yeah, and it sounds very simple, food, shelter, water, but it's the hardest thing.
I don't think it sounds simple for one thing. I can't build a shelter. Because you need to build that shelter in one day, the first day, right?
Yeah, optimally, when you go into a survival situation or in nature, you have to build a shelter is number one. One, to protect you from the elements and to keep you semi-safe. Yeah. So that's the first thing, you're like shelter.
So how did you guys build a shelter? Y'all had nothing.
Well, when we got in there, we seen bamboo.
Yeah.
So bamboo is great for building. So that was the first thing. We were like, okay, we have this bamboo. Let's work with that. And we had our machete. So we just started hacking away, splitting the bamboo, coming up, and making a lean-to A-frame shelter.
Wow. And then the next thing was fire.
Fire. And fire was a challenge because we're in the forest during rainy season. So everything was wet. It was like sabotage from the beginning. Everything was wet.
Jeez.
Everything. So that really was a challenge, and it took us a while to get a fire and keep it going.
Wow. And did you guys keep it going the full 21 days?
So...
Because people left you, like you were...
Yeah, because I'm here thinking, I wanted to spoil it for anyone that didn't watch it, but what got me through it was the fire, keeping the fire going, because at night, the temperatures would drop, and everything is wet, So there's a chance of hypothermia. So the fire is what kept me going. To keep it going, that kept me going. Yeah.
Whoa. Shanika, I can't, I'm sorry. Guys, like, this is real for me. Like, I'm just like trying to imagine, like, okay, I'm definitely not able. Like, I just disqualify myself before I eat.
Let's work on it. We can work on that. Okay?
When I hear the cold, the elements, wet, I hate things that are wet, by the way. Like, that would be my breaking point.
And the bugs. The bugs.
Oh my gosh.
I walked out of there with mosquito bites all over my body. I had mosquito bites on my mosquito bites. That's how bad it was.
Can you ask for bug spray, like in one of the things that you bring?
No.
So there's certain things you can ask for.
You can only bring like primitive items. So you can't bring like bug spray or a lighter.
Oh my gosh.
Or like a water filter. Like nothing new agey. Everything is primitive. Yeah, so bug spray would not qualify for that.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and in that environment, it was very challenging.
It was very challenging.
Yeah. But
so you did say something to me when we were talking. You said the other thing that kept you going was you spoke to the ancestors.
Oh yeah.
And you asked for guidance.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about that?
Yes.
Because I mean, we talk a lot about ancestral work and ancestral healing on here. So walk us through that. What was that like? And you do this naturally. So how and why? How did you start this? And what did you see when you did that during the show?
So, I always have an ancestor altar at home. So just being, into spirituality and wanting to be in touch with who I am and my ancestry, I learned about, having an ancestor altar and keep that going and talking to your ancestors. So funny, like, and I learned about ancestor money.
You learned about ancestor money?
Yes, this was a few years ago. And I put I had my altar going, but I was like, ancestor money, all right, I'm gonna get some. The first time I lit ancestor money,
I have never heard of ancestor money, by the way. Please tell me what is ancestor money. Because we give to the, I guess, Msamo, which I guess you guys would say is an altar. And you can give money, silver coins and all that. Or you can leave your money there overnight and thank the ancestors and all that. Now what is ancestor money?
So ancestor money are these paper notes. And you burn them in a way of offering like currency to your ancestors. So you can buy them, I've bought them, different people make them. Yeah, it's a thing. The first time I burned ancestor money, the very next day, money came to me out of nowhere. And it was like, yo, this thing is real. And I've been burning it ever since.
And look at you're now on TV shows and everything. Yeah, guys, I met Shanika and she was like, I'm all about the ancestors. When I was on the show, I was talking to ancestors. I was asking for ancestral guidance. I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
This is real.
When I went out there, even before I went out there, I have the mindset that I'm not here to conquer or colonize nature.
Yeah.
I am here to harmonize with it. And knowing that the spiritual perceives and creates the physical, that's what I focused on. I focused on, you have something called land acknowledgement. So anytime you go somewhere,
share with those that don't know about it.
So land acknowledgement is having awareness that before you came to a certain land, there were ancestors and people that have been cultivating that land long before it was colonized and called whatever name it's called now.
Yes.
So to know what people inhabited the land, what the land was called by them, and acknowledging, saying I'm here, I honor your heritage and your history, and you kind of in a way pour libations and ask to be received by this land.
Yeah.
So when I went out there, that was in my mind, and I said prayers to the ancestors of the land to receive me and to know what my intentions are, to welcome me, because I'm not here to start nothing. I'm here to be at peace and to honor this place in nature. So with that being my intention, it just shifted everything because I said it, and I put that out into the universe.
Yeah.
So I believe the power of prayer and words and your intentions.
Yeah.
So with that, I try to remain very intentional and to also speak life.
To speak life.
Speak life.
Yeah.
So I went out there. Prior to going out there, I just did a lot of, they call it ebos, where you sit with your ancestors and you talk to them. Let them know your intentions and, just talk to spirit and let them know, listen, I'm going to do this thing. Y'all always show up for me. I need y'all now more than ever. I'm going to do something very hard. Show up.
Yeah. So in South Africa, we call that ubupahla, right? So guys, you heard her. She went, she pahlad, she spoke to the land, she called Abadala, the old people, to come through and do the work. That's amazing. And did you feel the support throughout?
I felt it. Every day I would go and sit at the river and I would meditate and I would pray. The first time I went to the river, this song came to me. I called to my ancestors. I said, please guide me. Be here with me, this is hard, please. And I heard, you're never alone, you're not alone, we're your ancestors, you're never alone. So I kept that going within me. Anytime things felt really challenging, I said, come on. And I would say that in my head, you're never alone, your ancestors are here, you're never alone. So that, little things like that kept me going. So I encourage you to have different practices in your life to be like a touching stone. Don't start your practice when things are already hard. So a lot of people will pray when things get hard. But why don't you pray and have gratitude and create that connection and relationship in the good times? And when the hard times come, you'll kind of get through it even, in a way better.
It's I always feel recently what my ancestors and my guides have been saying, that make sure that when the hard times come, they find you already elevated in spirit. So that when the hardship is coming, you are already elevated in spirit, so that it's not coming and it's knocking you down. It's coming and you're already firm within your spirit and you're solid. So I completely get you. I completely agree with that. Wow. So I want to segue and use this to segue into the womb work, because obviously this is also, but before we even go into that, this is also one of your dreams that you want to start. You are able to help, not even start. You're able to help others live in communion with the land.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Can you tell us what the vision is and where you're headed, so that we can support you and people that are I want to learn from this woman? Because guys, to survive 21 days in the jungles of Mexico, and nobody has ever done it before. I marked myself excellent. We're living through rainy season in Mexico. I'm in a very comfortable spot. I don't even, even that is a lot for me. This is enough for me. This is a lot. I can't imagine doing more. But people that want to learn from you, and I think that many people have this desire globally. How do you do that? How do they do it? How do they contact you to do that? What are some things that you are willing to teach and that they can expect?
Okay, yes. So my overall grand vision is to have land and to start an intentional community, an eco-village that is centered around peoples of color. Maybe about 15 years ago, when I studied permaculture, I found out about eco-villages. And since then, I've known that's how I want to live, in communion with nature. And I've visited a few eco-villages, looked at them all over the world, and they're predominantly, if not all, dominated by people of non-melanated ancestry.
Let's just say like
White
dominated
people.
by white people.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong. I know I've got like there's a lot of white people that
Yeah.
follow this podcast, but you guys also know that we keep it very
And it's nothing against white people, but as people of color, we need spaces that we can feel free and show up and feel safe to express and be ourselves. So our history with colonization and the white man, it's very hard to go in a space where it's like 20 white people and one black person. You feel like an odd duck in there. So to have a place in nature, land, where people can come and feel free and learn and connect with their ancestors and nature, that's my goal. So I have a website called starseedlanding.org, which shares the vision of my eco-village. And the way you can help support that is to donate. Reparations is real. You want to help black people? Give us some money. We have worked so long building the United States of America and so many other places, labor of brown and indigenous peoples, free labor to build up other races. So give it back. Your ancestors have benefited from my ancestors' work. Give it back. These systems of oppression are still dominating and benefiting. Give back.
I love that. And if people want to work with you one-on-one, they can also contact you.
They can contact me. My Instagram is Moonchild Healing, that undercross SM_SM.
Oh my gosh. So guys, you already know why Shanika and I connected, right? You already get it, right? I love the eco-village. But talking of ancestors, as we were talking, as I'm getting to know Shanika, one of the things she shared, guys, like a mind-blowing story. Okay, she has 3 kids, as we've mentioned, and she gave birth at home, natural birth. The first 2 times, just her and her boyfriend. The last time, just a midwife, right? And the midwife's job was to just sit there and just observe the process. She didn't go to prenatal birthing classes, nada. And when I tell you her children are alive and healthy and everything, I was like, you gotta come through. She was like, I'm a doula, and she does all this womb stuff, and I'm just like, wow, blown away, because I've actually never heard the story. So how did you get into womb work? How did you not get caught up in all these things that women are taught about their wombs, and you just always listened to your womb?
So I want to say womb work is ancestral work. Straight up.
What do you mean? Please tell us.
I mean, the womb is the portal that brings souls through. So ancestors pass on and transition, and they come back. So they come back through their lineage many times. So doing that work to heal yourself is healing your ancestors, because we know about epigenetics, how trauma can be passed on from your ancestors and to your children.
We've spoken about epigenetics inheritance on here.
So healing yourself is healing the planet. You're healing backwards in time and forwards in time. And it starts with your womb. That's your power center. And the womb holds a lot of emotions and energy. So a lot of women have experienced trauma, sexual trauma, and they hold that energy in their womb. And a big part of them is disconnected because of that trauma. It's like you experience trauma, a part of you leaves. It's called soul loss. And essentially a part of you becomes numb. And you no longer breathe in and inhabit that space. Because once you do, you're going to feel all that come back. And it's there for you to process.
When I was in Thailand, I learned about the work of soul retrieval because of soul loss, right? So guys, basically in essence is that when you experience a trauma, a part of you can be frozen in time. So with soul retrieval work, which I think of it as trauma work anyway, is that you're going back to get pieces of your soul. So they say that your soul is fractured into different spaces because of all the trauma. So for most of us, it's just like starting with the womb work is a great process.
It's a great process, yeah.
So did you always, did something bring you to the womb work, or were you just like, I've just always been like this, I've just always known? Because when we were talking, you were like, I've always had a great period. I've always had like a great relationship with my womb. I was like, really?
Yeah, I have, really. Even when I was younger, but I can pinpoint periods in time where I gained more awareness and got into the work more. So what you don't know about me is that I've actually had 4 children.
Wow.
4 children. I've been a mother since I was 17.
Wow.
And what really awoke in me was my first child, because when she was 3 years old, she transitioned. She became an ancestor.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And through that process of losing a child, it really put me in touch with myself on a deeper level and spirit, because it made me question this reality. You know, holding the body of my child lifeless, it made me question, like, what was this thing that animated her? What gave her life?
Wow.
And since then, nothing has been the same, because that's when I started to meditate.
Wow.
That's when I really started to tap in spiritually, and then everything opened up to me. Yeah, I learned about, well, I had her when I was 17 in the hospital.
Yes.
And at that time, I didn't really have any programming about birth.
Yeah.
You know, I don't remember like being fearful of birth.
Yes.
None of that. I didn't even take any classes on childbirth or anything.
Wow.
So I had a very neutral mind.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of women need to get back to, is
Just
a neutral mind about childbirth, and then get to the positive side.
Yeah.
Because all the negative beliefs are conditioning you to believe that your body isn't safe. It's not safe to give birth. Whew. And especially with the rate of Black women dying in hospitals, we feel it. We don't feel safe.
Yeah, that's another thing. It's like, you already don't feel safe from the conditioning. Birth is all these things. They've just put a lot of stories around it, right? And then on top of that, you're going into a hostile environment.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it. When I look at all these stories of Black women dying in childbirth at a faster rate than any other race, it just makes me feel like it doesn't feel like a safe container,
place,
right?
Yeah.
It feels like it's a hostile environment. So without even us knowing it, right? It's why I was having a conversation with you about the vision that I have for birthing with Black women, and what I'm working towards creating in the next few years. Guys, I'm just keeping it hush-hush, but I have been speaking to people already on the vision of what I have, and Shanika is one of the people that I've brought in on this. But it's coming from that fear that, like, we're going into spaces, and also, again, you have to give birth, prove your humanity, prove that you deserve to have health care, and then, like, also working with a system of birth that isn't indigenous to women globally in how we birth, right? So it's so many things are not okay. And what that's doing is, as we hear more of these stories on a global level as Black women, it's vicarious trauma. It affects us. We carry it in our body because it's like, this is a possibility. So that sense of unsafety is then carried throughout the pregnancy.
And all trauma is not feeling safe. Someone doesn't have to hit you upside the head or abuse you. The moment that you don't feel safe, you hold your breath. There's some energy there that is held, a belief that is held, that I'm not safe. And that, in essence, can affect the outcome. So a lot of women, you know, the hospital, the medical establishment, the way it began was through experimentation on Black women through slavery in the United States.
I remember that. In Boston, guys, so there's a park in Boston, in Massachusetts. They actually have a whole statues of Black women and the gynecological industry. And on those statues, they have written plaques of that history, if I remember correctly. Because I think it was those statues that then led me to Google and research this I remember just being traumatized learning the entire history.
So it goes back to biases, racial biases that are unacknowledged. They don't even know that it's there.
Yeah.
So these doctors, these white male doctors, believe that black women don't feel pain the same way that white women do.
Yeah.
So to them, in their mind, it was okay to operate and experiment on black women without even drugs. And that, if you look at that history, and then the same mentality that is a little ingrained in the medical industry, there's that bias where, you know, they give black people less pain medicine, less often, because in their mind we don't feel pain the same way, or we might be addicts. So all of those things that are believed about us and unacknowledged in the medical world, and then as a black woman to go into that space with doctors that don't believe you.
Not only that, to go into that space with that ancestral knowledge in your DNA. Come on now.
Being under bright lights, you know, people that you don't know and have no relationship with are now in the most intimate part of your being.
And that just is it. Like, as you said, people you have no relationship with, going into the most intimate part and into the most sacred part.
And then not only that, they make you feel like you're not empowered. You're not a doctor. You don't know what you're saying. So we have the power. Listen to us and do what we say. And I've been to hospital births and I've been to home births. And in the hospital, a lot of my work was to advocate for women, because they believe that you don't know about any of the medical protocols. So a lot of what happens is we're manipulated through fear. Your baby might die. Your blood pressure is off the roof. You need to do this now. But when you know that you have options and you know how your body works and that your body has an innate ability to give birth, your whole outlook changes on birth, and you feel empowered to do it at home with people that love you. So the best environment to have a baby is the same environment the way the baby was created. So how do a lot of us have intimate relations? We like the lights low. We like some nice music on, maybe some essential oils and incense.
I didn't even think of that.
Let's get it on.
Right? Like there's music, there's incense, smell, good food.
You feel safe. And you can relax. So birth is a physiological process. It happens naturally when you feel safe. But when you go into environments where you don't feel safe, what happens is our hormonal cycle. Adrenaline stops birth. So the minute you feel unsafe, adrenaline and fear is going, and it stops the natural process of birth.
So you've got the doctors, you've got the nurses, you've got people telling you to push. You've got hush lights, you've got sterile environment. Safety levels have dropped completely. This makes a lot of sense. And this makes a lot of sense because I do a lot of work with clients and myself around safety in the nervous system and regulating the nervous system. And I see when I feel completely unsafe, one of the things that I've been working with my womb coach on is that the realization that whenever I feel unsafe, I clench my pelvic. My pelvic area clenches, and then I have this desire to tighten my jaw. And the minute I tighten my jaw, I clench my yoni. The difference is that I'm so hyper aware of it. So every time it happens, it annoys me, right? But most women are doing it really unconsciously. Right? So I feel like my coach has been just like, bring attention to it. Don't try to change it. Just be aware. And then just focus on breathing and noticing. And this can happen. I'll be walking and I'll be like, ooh, I feel myself wanting to clench. What is going on? How am I feeling in my body? Okay, let me get home and do the work on this. But we don't even realize that. And I didn't even notice how deeply tied the yoni and the yoni muscles were to safety. until I started noticing that whenever I feel angry, unsafe, whatever, I do clench my jaw and instantly I feel my yoni muscles just go.
Mm-hmm. You know? And women do the same thing in birth. And if you look at the vocal cords and the vagina, it's so similar. And I've seen the correlation between women that feel unsafe to express their truth and to speak up, how it relates to their yoni.
That is, oh my gosh, that is so mind-blowing because one of the things that I am noticing now is that the more I do this work, as I'm going deeper in my womb work practice and into my yoni, because my womb work, guys, has gone from just the womb to the actual yoni, the opening, the cervix, the canal. So that's where I've been the last few weeks, the last few months actually. It's been amazing. Like I'm taking my tantric practice even deeper and just really focused on there. And I feel like I'm focused on there most of the day now and just breathing and noticing the feedback that my yoni is giving me. So before it was feedback from my tummy, but now I've noticed that it's so powerful, the yoni is so powerful that when I feel myself clenching, I'm like, oops, what's going on there, Van? Let's have a conversation, let's see. And one of the things that I've noticed is that the more I've been doing that, the more I've actually been telling my truth. I've been coming out and being like, actually, I believe in prioritizing women of color and safe spaces for women of color. I'm no longer sugarcoating my truth. I'm fully within it. So I do know that that's what was happening.
Yeah, because your pelvis, that's your bowl of power. The more you can open it.
I was taught that it's a solar plexus.
For women, I'll say it's your pelvis and your yoni region.
Wow, that makes sense though. And of course it would make sense that it's we're taught it's a solar plexus because it's a solar plexus for men.
And we're in a solar male-dominated world.
Right.
So, so the work goes so deep and I've had so many experiences. Like for one, a lot of women don't orgasm. A lot of women don't orgasm. And that's one, they don't feel safe. Two, they're not present in their womb. And three, when you actually are able to open and unlock the womb, that's connected to your heart center. So if your heart is not open and you're not in love with yourself first and then the experience you're in, you will not orgasm.
Say what?
Yeah.
This is amazing. This is amazing.
So that goes to the science with the chakras.
Actually, you know why I believe you? No one has to tell me about the heart center and anything to do with the womb and the interconnection, because I have seen this myself as I've been doing the womb work and really going in. It's like when I feel a shift in my womb and in my yoni, I felt it instantly in my heart. It's almost been instantaneous. Where it's like I'll be in the meditation, in the breath work, and something will shift and unlock in the womb. I'll feel an unlocking in the pelvis and the yoni, and it will instantly feel like an unlocking in the heart area. So I'm like, I've been meaning to Google this because I was like, I have to Google the connection, but turns out I didn't have to because I'd be having this conversation.
The universe heard you.
Wow.
And we're spiritual and energetic beings, but because our awareness is usually outside of ourselves, we're not tuning in. Let me tell you, when I had my second daughter, the moment I got pregnant, I felt it. There was like an electric circuit in my ovary, and I felt it go up into my pineal gland. I felt it. I was like laying in bed. I was like, wow, I'm pregnant. That's what that was. Just a knowing and trusting. Because women, we have an innate knowing of everything when we're connected. A lot of times is that we question that knowing.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is incredible.
Yeah.
That is amazing. So, what was the home birth like for you? What were some of the things of the things that you did? Because you didn't do prenatal care, so you didn't have a doctor on call. Weren't you scared like that something would go wrong? How did you know what to do for the baby? And I know we spoke about this, that you talked to the ancestors, but like, and you use herbs. Tell us about that process.
So first, I spoke to my ancestors. It was a time where like I was really deep into meditation, and that was my life. It was after I lost my first daughter, and I would go to yoga every day. That was my therapy, yoga. Yoga led to meditation.
Yes.
And in the process of meditating and journaling and inquiry, this came up about how I wanted to birth differently. My mother gave birth to me in Kingston, Jamaica, in Jubilee Hospital, and I was born 1986. At that time, and from what I'm hearing today, it's still very similar. My mom was drugged. They call it like twilight. And she was tied to the bed. She gave birth to me and she was knocked out, so they took me away. They take the baby away. God knows what they're doing, and they have your baby until you wake up. So for me, I knew I wanted to heal my lineage by giving birth and making a new possibility. Knowing that, my ancestor spirit came through, and I knew that I wanted to birth at home. And in that knowing and developing that confidence, I started to research about birth, how birth happens, you know, can you even birth outside of the hospital? But what were we doing prior to the medical complex? What were we doing? So birth in the hospital is a new phenomenon. The last 100 years compared to thousands of years of having birth naturally.
And people have said to me, but lots of women died, lots of children died.
That's what they say. Lots of women died and this and that.
And yet, look at what's happening in hospitals in some parts of the world, in particular.
Women are still dying.
For Black women in particular, right? So there's that. And also, I always say like, then if hospitals are like just the last 100 years, the human race got to be like 7 billion people, or 6 or like at least 5 billion people before 100 years ago. So we got to multiply. And probably even more, probably 6 billion, right?
So our body has an innate knowledge of how to give birth. What happens is that as women, we come out of the feminine energy, which is the intuition and the knowing, and a lot of us are dominated by the masculine world and masculine energy, where everything is thought and logic. So obviously you're going to be like, oh, I need to worry about this and this and this and this and this and this, instead of trusting in the innate knowing
that your body knows how
what to do. And I'm not saying that hospitals don't have their place. They do. For my family, it's when there is something severe, a broken leg or something. Other than that, we don't go there because we know that it's a harsh environment. You know? But you have women that might have different complications and they need a medical facility that is more trained for emergencies. But birth is not an emergency. If you're having a normal birth, you can birth at home or where in any environment that you choose and you feel safe.
I think people are worried about breached births, right? So they worried about that. But were you not worried about any of that?
No.
And like, you told me something interesting, guys. So Shanika says she loves the process of birth.
I love it.
Like, it's beautiful, it's painless. Like, it wasn't an issue for you. And I've spoken to women who have really great relationships with their wombs, who didn't struggle with period pains, who didn't have any of that drama. And so many of them have said, like I just pushed once or twice and the baby came. Like, I don't understand the big deal with with birth pains, and that has helped me realize that there is definitely a link between the relationship you have with your womb and birthing.
And birthing,
So
yeah.
I want you to take us through the process of like what you said to me about a few days ago about how birth can be seamless by just working with your body.
Yeah. So I said to you the other day that the vagina is a muscle, right?
Yes.
And when you're tense,
Yeah.
you tighten up and you close the muscle, and it makes it harder to birth.
Yeah.
So the more you start connecting with your body and working with the womb, you learn how to relax and drop into your feminine. And it relates to birth. It's all connected.
Yeah.
So the more that you're able to relax and drop into your feminine and feel safe and trust in her, the more that you're going to trust the ability of your body to give birth.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you said you just work with the contractions.
Yeah.
You just breathe.
You breathe. I love it because it's like meditation.
Yeah.
It's like a forced meditation, but it's meditation. But when you understand and know how to surrender.
Yes.
This is a feminine aspect, is surrender.
I know, I keep thinking of that conversation that we had about learning how to surrender.
And surrender requires trust.
Yes.
So in this masculine-oriented world, we're showed to control everything because it's not a safe world and you can't trust anybody.
Yep.
How many times have you been told that? Be careful.
You can't trust anyone.
Yeah.
You can't meet people on the road. Guys, like just to show you how like I'm so glad trust and surrender are part of my world, because Shanika and I met. Like she was going into a store, I was going into the store. We just said hello. We both stopped, started talking, and we're like, "Do you want to get breakfast?" Like literally within 3 sentences, we had moved to breakfast, and like within 2 minutes, I was at the back of a scooter, and we were having breakfast and having.
We're like the best of friends that we've known each other forever, and we're just catching up.
Like there was no anything, and we just. Both of us knew in that moment to pause and talk to each other. In that moment, there was no talk before. It was just a, would you like to do this? And I think like I'm learning more and more through travel in my life. I think because I've had years and years of training this for surrender, to really surrender. But you also told me something very interesting. She was saying that for most women, why women tend to struggle with birthing, right? And why it's so scary is because we don't, like the more a woman can surrender, the more her pelvis will open up for birth. Do you want to talk to us about that? Like the more you can get into your feminine, the more it will open up. And it makes sense to me because the more you trust, even in sex, the safer you feel as a woman, the more you trust, the more the yoni and the womb just opens up. And when you don't have that, that's when it clenches and things are so much more painful, etc., etc.
Yeah. And the body is so amazing. And when you understand the connection of your thoughts and your emotions and how they impact you physiologically, then you will start to shift how you do everything. Because the moment you start having thoughts of worry and unsafety, then your body starts to release adrenaline. And then that creates a whole chain reaction on your body where you want to fight, flight, run, or you freeze. Yeah. So it's the same in sex, in birth, and in any interaction that you have. So the more that you can come into your feminine and you feel safe to be and exist, the more you will produce something that's called oxytocin. So when you have intimate relations, your body produces oxytocin. This tells you that you're safe. This is the bonding and the love hormone. Yes. And it's the same with birth. Yes. In the birthing process, your body starts to produce oxytocin so that you can feel love and relax and surrender and connected to your baby and your partner. But that process is interrupted through so many things that we've been talking about.
Yeah.
So the process is, you don't wait till you're in labor to learn about deep breathing and relaxation. You need that not only in birth, but in everyday life, where you have to regulate your nervous system and activate your vagus nerve in your nervous system for deep orgasmic breathing.
Amen.
Yeah.
Like the power of being able to breathe all the way down through to the tummy, down to the womb, down to the yoni. Powerful. Right?
Yeah.
Powerful. But I think that, and I find it fascinating that women are taught the breathing, but then you're taught it in a class for like 20 minutes and not as an everyday existence for a human, let alone humans with wombs.
Yeah.
Like, come on now.
When you start to understand the science and how everything is connected, then you're like, okay, I need to do this.
Yes.
Because the breath and the mind is connected. When you take a deep breath, what happens? For me, my thoughts pause.
Yeah.
And I'm like, breathing in. You feel nourished, you feel alive.
Yeah.
You're aware and you're present.
Yeah.
We need more mindfulness and presence.
Yeah.
And that's how the breathing can connect you to your womb to start to release trauma and anything that's stored in your body. You can start to release it by awareness and breathing. So if you take nothing from this talk, nothing at all, nothing. Breathe deep. Look at a baby and see how they breathe when they're laying on their stomach and they're sleeping. Abdominal breathing, in and out. And when I was a teenager, like I kind of just picked this programming up of like my stomach's supposed to be nice and flat. So I would hold it in. I would just, my stomach was already flat, but I would still hold it in and not fully breathe because I just had to look like this.
For years I would do that too, because I was like, especially when you're wearing a tight dress, it's and then you're just here. Now I'm like, no, I don't want any complications. Because the thing is, when we do that, we're also training the body to be tense. So the mind automatically thinks something is happening, because why else would you be tensing up like that? The subconscious mind is thinking the nervous system can only be tense when something is happening. And I think lots of us as women, we do that, right? And I think even now there's a lot of grown women that they put on something and they just want
the waist trainers. The waist trainers.
Don't get me started on the waist trainers. Like, when
those
people
are so bad.
Those are terrible because guys, like, you're literally like clenching everything in, and people like really recommend the waist trainers. You exercise with them, you do everything, and they like
it's so bad.
Everything out.
You know what it reminds me of? Like the 1700s, where women wore corsets and they were taught to just be like, hold it all in. And think about that programming from that time to come in and wear waist trainers. And how
women were with sex
at that time,
right? Like, they're wearing those corsets, and all women were complaining, just get a man on, let him do his business and let it go. Precisely because, you've been training the pelvis, the digestion system, everything to just be tightened. So you were tight as how, And it's interesting because we still value that. It's only within Tantra that I learned that actually being too tight as a woman is problematic. And I've had I worked so much in Tantra to change that so that like the pelvic muscles relax. Because most people tend to think, even with Kegels, most people like, Kegels, you want to tighten up. And I'm always like, it's better for you to do yoni eggs because you want to train the yoni to relax, to tense, relax, tense, relax. You want to just train the muscle. You don't want to be tensing. But this is what we've been told.
And that's Tantra from a male perspective.
Kegels.
Kegels. Because it's in relation to the penis. You want a tight vagina so it can hold the penis. But what about the women's pleasure?
Right.
Forget about the
And
penis.
even then, like the more relaxed the muscle, the more you can train it to tighten as and when.
Yeah.
But this is so crazy. But yeah, Kegels, and when I tell people about Kegels, they just look at me like I'm the craziest human on the planet. Like, obviously you must do your Kegels. And I'm like, guys, like, can we have these conversations though? Because so much of what we've been taught about women and being in these bodies is from a male perspective.
Male perspective. Yeah.
So even the way that we relate to our yoni and our entire womb is from the male perspective.
Male perspective, yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So Shanika, you have been an incredible guest. Thank you so much for this. I have like one more question, which is, what was your intention when you said yes? I mean, I didn't even give you an option. Saying yes to me on the podcast wasn't really an option.
I mean, my intention is always just sharing love and light. And a lot of love and light comes through empowerment and information and knowing what is possible.
Yeah.
So all of my experiences have taught me so much.
Yeah.
And I'm always happy to tell my story because I know it will help empower and heal others. Yeah.
And I know that you work with women as a doula, and you also do womb work with them. You're trained in reflexology, good eating. You also have knowledge of herbs, especially for women in terms of our wombs. How do people get hold of you? I mean, guys, as you can imagine, Shanika is a body of knowledge. She is a library almost, right? And this is what she's done. As you've heard her say, she's been advocating for women in spaces so that they can, at hospitals, so that they can talk about how they want to birth with their doctors. So she knows what's what, right? So how do people get to work with you, especially online, especially around the womb stuff? This, we talk a lot about womb stuff on here.
Just contact me. Look up my website, starseedlanding.org. My other website is called nakedwildandfree.com. I created a shirt to celebrate my victory of Naked and Afraid. So actually support me, get a shirt, they're beautiful. And my contact information is on there if you'd like to work with me about womb work, mindfulness, the breath, the body, all of it.
Oh, I love it. So guys, hoping Shanika will be here for the retreat.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yes, so she's gonna come through for, she'll do massages, but I'm also hoping that she'll stay for the full coaching sessions and she'll be part of the stuff. So even if she goes away, she goes home, but in the mornings she comes back and she eats with us and she's part of the retreat, of the gathering with the women, and she gets to partake. That would be incredible. I mean, you can only imagine how life-changing this is going to be for all of us. So, Shanika, the ones that are watching and are coming to the retreat, I'm sure they're already getting excited. You're going to be part of the conversations, part of the trips and everything. So that's going to be awesome for us. But guys, if you're also listening to this and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm wondering how do I get started on healing ancestral money trauma, and I want to be part of regulating my nervous system, I want to do the work on regulating my nervous system, connecting with my ancestors, I do have the 7-day tapping into ancestral money wisdom training, right? And it is free. So you just go to wealthy-money.com/training. Yep, free.
I'm going to get that because I'm like, money and ancestral work, we need that.
Definitely, it's all free, guys. Yeah. So again, wealthy-money.com/training. Go on there, sign up, and if you're listening, you're watching this on YouTube, please share the link with your friends. Share this podcast with your friends, right? I mean, you've heard this. You're hearing these conversations. So many women need to be having these conversations. Share and leave us a comment. You guys are really, really great at this on YouTube. So all I'll say is just keep leaving the comments, right? Greatly love them. Share away if you are listening on iTunes, Podbean, and Spotify. Again, please share this podcast with family and friends. And yeah, shoot me an email. Find Shanika on Instagram. Have a conversation.
And tune into Naked and Afraid. I'm season 14, episode 1. My episode was premiered this month in February.
Wow.
In honor, I was the first episode released for the season, and it was in Black History Month.
Oh,
So I made Black Herstory. So check it out. Let me know. All of it.
And guys, she's heading to an undisclosed location to shoot another one. We send her all the love and light, and we will see her at the retreat when she gets back. This is epic. So I hope you guys are inspired. Have a fantastic day further.